Hi guys, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video. Today it's gonna be my wrap up of December. And spoiler alert, I had a really slow reading month. It's definitely the worst reading month of the year for me. I ended up reading 4 books and I ended up reading a total amount of 1,893 pages. So yeah, definitely very much lower than usual. My usual norm is around 4,000 to 5,000 pages a month, and the amount of books is about 12 to 15 on average, so it's very much lower. I knew that I was reading some long books, so that definitely also changed things, but it was a lot worse than I expected, and I thought I would catch up on something on the Christmas days because I had everything days off, but I was just not really in the mood to read anything. And I watched a lot of things, movies and TV shows, and spent a lot of time with people, family, friends and stuff. So yeah, but let's get over the books the statistics first and then the books that I did read. In terms of genres, 1 was science fiction, 2 were fantasy, and 1 was urban fantasy. In terms of age group, 3 of them were adult and 1 of them was a middle grade book. In terms of formatted, 2 of them were trade paperbacks and 2 of them were audios, so an even split. In terms of publication year, 1 of them was from the 2000s, 1 of them was 2017, and the last 2 books were published in 2019. In terms of page length, 1 was between 200 and 299 pages, 1 was between 300 and 399 pages, 1 was between 400 and 499 pages, and then 1 was between 800 and 899 pages. The shortest book I read was How to Be a Pirate by Cressida, Cowell, which comes in at 211 pages. The longest book that I read was Assassin's Fate, which was 853 pages long. In terms of standalone versus series, I didn't read any standalones this month. 1 was ongoing to catch up to a series, and 1 I completed, so it was a pretty good reading month in terms of my series and how much I completed. In terms of rating, also really good reading month. I focused on some authors that I knew I would like. So the first one was, 1 of them was a 4-star, 2 of them were 4.5 stars, and 1 of them was a 5 stars. The first book I finished this month was How to Be a Pirate by Cressida, Cowell. This is the second book in the How to Train Your Dragon series, and I read this for Kirsten's All Dragons readathon, and it definitely works for that because one of the main parts of this series is Hiccup. Hiccup has a pet dragon thing that he is friends with, whatever, called Toothless, and yeah, definitely had a big part of this, even though it's called something to do with pirates. It was filled with small images like this, and it says Toothless doing a poo in Alvin's helmet and it's quite fun. Then it has, like, when it introduces new dragons, it looks like this. It has a little bit of a piece of information here. It talks about the traits of this dragon, how you can determine what type of dragon it is, what is its strength and stuff, how does it compare to other dragons and stuff like that. So it's really funny, and yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun. It's definitely one I understand if some kids really enjoy reading these. I would say it's younger middle grade. Like, it is middle grade, but I think the younger middle grade age will actually be able to read these because the language is easy and the sort of topics that they're covering. But I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to reading on in the series, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The second book that I finished was Hope for the Best by Jodi. This is the 10th and most recent book in the Chronicles of St. Mary series. Last time I did a wrap-up about this series, I was asked if it is time travel, and yes, this is a series that is focusing on time travel. It is about these historians working at this place called the St. Mary's, and the St. Mary, they are sort of found a way to travel back in time, and they write down what is happening so that every historical event is covered accurately. but they're not allowed to do anything to change it because that could be catastrophic, and all of the things that happens in history happens for a reason or something like that. And they're not, one of the biggest rules is that you don't go back to like check out the big things like back in to see if Christ really happened, like that sort of thing. They're not allowed to do that. It's very much against the rules, because you don't want to you don't know what will happen if that didn't happen, and it will change how people's perspectives were. And I think that's a really, really interesting concept. And this is one of the things that explores in this one. I really enjoyed this series so far. Our main character is quite amazing. I think that she handles herself really well, and she just has a wit and humor that I really, really appreciate. And even though this one was not as good as the previous one, I still really, really enjoyed it and gave it 4.5 stars. The next thing that I finished was a really big finish for me. It is Assassin's Fate by Robin Hobb. This is book 3 and the last and final book in the Fist of the Fool trilogy, but it's also the last and final book in the realm of the Elderling universe. It is a 16-book long series of books, and I've loved every minute of reading this. I mean, there are obviously some books I'm not as fond of as others, but when I think about the whole thing, I'm so appreciative of starting this and getting through this, and I felt so accomplished when I finished it. And it took me 20 days to listen to this, because I was only like listening to it like an hour and a half every day. And it's like 45 hours in total, but in my speed it's like 22 and a half. So it did take me quite a long time to read it, because I also didn't listen to it on weekends, because I was listening to Hope for the Best when I was home. So it definitely did take a lot longer than usual when I read these books, but I definitely enjoyed my time reading it. And I will do, I've mentioned it before, but I'll do a video about this Elderling universe, how you should read it, because this specific book just definitely confirmed that you have to read these in a certain order, because everything comes together in this final book. The Rain Wilds and the Live Ship Traders, everything that happens in those two series is also mingled into this one, and all of the characters have a big finale with Fitz and the Fool and all of the others from the Assassin's Apprentice or the Farseer trilogy and onwards. So it's very important to read it in a specific order. I think there are maybe 2 ways you can do it, but I would recommend the Elderling order that you can find on Goodreads. But I'll talk a little bit more about that in a more specific video. This book, I was really happy with how everything wrapped up. I was unsure if I was going to give it a 5 stars, because there were some things where it was a little bit dragging out a little bit unnecessarily, but on the other hand, everything tied together by the end. So I was really happy with how everything worked out, and I was very it was a quite emotional ride as well. So for that reasons, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm really happy with how everything wrapped up. The last and final book that I read this year, or this month, but also the last book of the year, was Storm Curse by Patricia Briggs, the 11th book in the Mercy Thompson series. It took me quite a long time to read this one. For some reason, it was not my favorite. I'm not saying it's a bad book, because I love all of Mercy Thompson books. I really enjoy how Mercy is as a character, and how she's handling things with everyone else. But for some reason, this one was just a little drawn out, in my opinion, just a little bit. And it was enough to make me not as engaged in this one as I have been with, for instance, Silence Fallen. This one, the government is trying to have set up a meeting with the Fae, with the help of Mercy and her gang. But before any of that can happen, starts happening, there's an attack of one of the witches in this series, where all of the people have been killed, and the place is filled with zombie animals, zombie goats. And so this book talks a lot about black magic, dark witches, and all of that stuff. And it was interesting. I was really happy to learn more about that. And it had a pretty satisfying ending overall. But it was not my favorite in the series, and for that I give it 4.5 stars. So those were all of the 4 things that I read in December. How did your December go? Is there any books that you read that you would like to recommend to me? Do you also get into slumps in December as me, or is it just me? If you did, then I hope you're getting back on track now. I am definitely feeling like I'm already reading more, so I am very confident about January's reading. But yeah, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very, very soon. Goodbye.